furnace is on.
Okay,
Well,
show on the road, get the committee meeting started.
Alright, so the first thing that we want to talk about is the business office contract. 32 cents in there? No?
No.
Alright. So, what we talked about the last time is good, with the exception of us talking to the chair a little bit, possibly doing something for Janelle separately, as she has most ideal year of having business manager.
Responsibility on her shoulders.
So she has done a lot for us in the last couple of months. But the rest of it was good.
Well, I was just, like he had said, we had talked about Janelle and about how she has had to have increased responsibilities. You know, in all the transition that's been going on in the business office, so I guess we're looking for some discussion on how people feel about a potential stipend or something, like a one-time deal to acknowledge that.
So, I mean, Janelle's doing a lot more work, right? But is she behind in her
She's
work?
had a lot of
I mean,
responsibility.
I mean, she's not like behind where she needs help, right?
Yeah, it's
So paying her money will make her do more work?
Well,
I mean, not saying that, I mean.
No, I think the acknowledgement is the extra hours that she's been putting in to stay up.
All right,
there.
oh, okay, that, oh, okay, I didn't,
so
So
she
does
Because
had,
when you're salaried, I mean, you can't, there is no overtime. I mean,
Right, right.
You still have a job to do, and she's done it.
So she's salaried. Do we have the hour, has she tracked her hours that she has worked?
This past week, I had some interaction with her. It was probably 4:30 or so p.m. And she was working diligently and eating at the same time, so.
yeah, when I went and did the check, she was eating and
So she's
answering the phone
multitasking.
and,
But other than
And
that,
at 4:30, she should have been home for an hour, right? So.
there you go.
so we're just throwing it out there on what people's thoughts might be.
It'll level out for her now, once we get the new
The
guy
other
hired.
positions?
I mean, if she's doing extra hours, obviously she's had a lot more work. And to lighten the workload,
Well,
when you move people around to get her help.
That's coming, I mean,
Okay.
when we hire the new guy tonight, that's coming. But it's just been, she's been,
Yes.
it's just been the last probably 5 months, she's kind of been there by herself.
Although the bookkeeper
Yes.
needs her help now too, so that should relieve some of her workload.
Yeah.
It-
Goes-
it-
Current going forward is not
Going
as
forward
much of
is
the
fine.
worry. It's the past stuff. So, is there any, so I'm trying to figure out a way to, have, to be able to, calculate it or somehow, you know, if she hasn't tracked her hours, do we have projects that she has done outside of her current? So we know what her regular job duties were prior to everything happening with the business manager. We also know that she had a lot then go on top of her with the business manager leaving. Do we know what additional duties she was responsible for that she took care of during these last 4 or 5 months? Because that would help then to be able to, I feel like, to be able to kind of show.
That's just.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like, oh, well, we like Janelle, so here, let's just give her a stipend. I mean, I feel like I need something to, other than knowing that she's been working hard and has had a lot on her plate. I get that, and I have no argument with that. I just feel like I need something
To measure.
to measure it and to track it. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't think of that when it was going on.
but I know that there's been other, I mean,
I mean, her job description should have something, I mean, if she's doing anything that's outside her job description, obviously.
I'm sure, I
She
would,
has, yeah.
she was.
Okay, all
What-
right.
When the business manager was an employee, you know,
Right.
when business manager quit.
She was doing, so I popped in there when, I saw her a lot the week of the book fair, when I do the daily book fair deliveries, for our tills. So I saw her a lot then. And she was working on, I mean, I know she was working on business manager kinds of duties then, that were not necessarily her regular duties, but I can't think of what they were. They were getting close to year-end kinds of things.
Yeah, there were quite a few things with the audit that she had to,
Yeah,
because we lost the business manager when the auditors were coming in the door, so I mean, a lot of that fell on her. A lot of it fell on me.
so I wonder if, could we possibly get because Janelle would probably be able to produce.
Tell
She knows, yeah, she probably knows darn well what she was working on, that she
Above
felt
and
was
beyond
above and
her-
beyond her regular daily tasks that she worked on before. I mean, I would think that she would probably be able to come up with a pretty deep, pretty good list of the things that she was doing. Because we would have to bring this back would we have to bring it back before the board anyways?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking would probably be helpful then to bring it back before the board for a vote. We got that information from Janelle then to.
Morning.
Okay. I mean, I would feel better then with that, then I would feel like that, I could vote on that then, because that's, are you
Something
wondering on
documented.
numbers though?
What's that?
Are you looking at numbers today to possibly give ideas, or?
I don't know, I mean, here's the managerial conundrum that I have is,
Okay.
I wanna get this new guy in here,
Mhm.
and part of doing that is getting him hired tonight and having some contract in place so that he'll come to work and tell his old job that he's not coming to work anymore. Because this problem will persist until that happens, with her being overloaded, so the faster I can get that done, the better. That being said, I mean, would the board be comfortable passing what they had previously agreed to, and then looking at Janelle as an individual at a later date?
Absolutely. I feel so. He's saying that we would still consider this new hire, but then talk about
The
the
other
potential stipend.
contracts.
Right, at a later date.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying, I mean, the board came to a consensus on what we would offer the business office,
Yes,
and that part's fine. I mean, I think we've cleared that.
Yeah.
But we still have the Janelle question out there. And would you be willing tonight to add that to the board, the part that you have already agreed to, and talk about Janelle at a later date? I should probably say Janelle, but payroll clerk.
the payroll clerk with the additional responsibilities for the past 5 months.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
I would be fine with that, I mean,
What do you think?
because I think that would be outside of, I mean, I think that's outside of it anyways, I think that's a special circumstance outside of it
I think
anyways.
within the school structure, though, that's gonna be part of it.
It would be part of the contract?
I mean, it has been part of, I mean, when we're talking stipends for other units, it's been part of the contract.
So then would it need to be, just be looked at as opening up the contract then to do
That, yeah.
an addendum at some point to renegotiate the contract?
I think so, yeah.
She's the most senior person in the business office, correct?
Yes,
And how long has she been there?
2 years.
But you've been with the district for, what, 19 years or something?
What's that?
How long have you been with the district, Janelle?
No.
No, 2 years.
No, just 2 years? Oh.
Yeah, she came up in this court from
Oh,
the court. Okay.
All right, well,
but, you know, and on that note of getting help, I just know that in some other parts of the other departments in this district too, that there's, you know, there's help needed elsewhere in Jeff.
There's lots of.
Yeah. Yeah,
So your concern would be
to the address of these.
if we do for one, we should do for all, kind of a thought. Like,
Yeah, we just to get.
like everybody's
we
kind
need
of
to-
been short-staffed and,
Correct.
okay.
And we need to figure out a way to, you know, get help or, you know, assistance where it's needed, you know, just as much.
I agree with that, but I also think that, you know, if you look at the teachers and everything, you know, I mean, we pay extra for if they do any extra duties above their classroom stuff. So they, you know, if they're gonna do the after-school bus monitoring, they get an extra adjustment for that. And, you know, I mean, they get compensation for those pieces, and if you're
It's a bit
filling
of
a
a-
position and a half
It's a unique circumstance.
for 5 months, I mean, that's a pretty significant, it's not like it's for a month or two, I mean, that's a pretty significant above, I mean,
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
You guys don't have to do anything to know it.
I think it's a good suggestion.
no, yeah,
Just
I,
something for discussion.
yeah, I'm not opposed to, yeah, I just think, I just feel like I need something,
Quantitative.
yeah, to be able to justify it though. I mean, even though I know she's been doing this stuff, but I feel like we need something more
More
than just
specific.
knowing in my head that she's working hard. I know a lot of people work hard, so.
More specific as far as the duties she's been doing above and beyond her job prior to the changes that have been occurring in the business office.
All right, moving on, we're gonna talk about athletics, number of areas in athletics. We're gonna start with
You know, hard copy.
the proposed coaches and advisor handbook. I'm gonna roll through this up on the screen. And in general, what we're looking at is providing some
You all right, Mark?
some content for, we have a lot of different coaches coming and going. I don't know if you even realize how many, with all the even assistant coaches and most of them, 20 years ago, most of them worked for the school, and today they don't. And I think there's a disconnect. We hire these people and assume that they know what they're gonna do, they should be doing. So we're looking to provide some guidance so that maybe we can help these people out a little more than we are right now. So anyway, looking at putting stuff down in writing, I'll just go through the table of contents. So we have expectations. On page 4, we have organizational guidelines, basically outlining how they should be organized. How they go through the budget, in-season coaching responsibilities, pre-season responsibilities. Policy, I know Ms. Williams wanted to talk a little deeper about that. If there's any of this stuff in here that you want to dive deeper into, we certainly can. But you can see that there's goals for head coach, there's goals, there's duties and responsibilities. You know, and it's vague in general, because, you know, every sport's different, but we just provide some guidance to that. There's assistant coaches on there. I'm gonna cruise down to page 45. We're gonna talk a little bit about, well, let's start with fees, I guess. So, we had, and this is coming from long before I got here, but the 912 athletics has been $125 for a long time. The 912 fine arts has been $75. And then you can see junior high athletics and whatnot is $25 less, and as well as the fine arts. So then there's the other category. And we traditionally haven't had it in other category. This is something that we've kind of invented in the last couple of years because we have had some concern from the participants in those areas, and that's like POMs, mathlete, cheerleaders, knowledgeable, that kind of thing. We were charging them, like 3 years ago, we were charging them the full amount that we were everybody else, the 125 and the 100. And we were starting to get quite a few complaints about that because just mathlete, for instance, I mean, there's like 3 math events. And the season lasts a month, and we were charging them $125, so, I mean, it didn't
Yeah.
really make a whole lot of sense, so we randomly came up with $35, and wondering how the board feels about that, for starters.
Randomly came up with 30.
Well-
I mean, we have these math league tournaments, right? I mean, you go to city, go to another district, obviously, and who's driving them and what vehicle they're using, so I mean, that's a reasonable fee, I do believe, if you're, you know,
Transporting.
if you're transporting, you know, I mean, it's gas and insurance, I mean, it's all kind of adds up, and that's a one-time, now you say 35, 17, and 825, what is that for each, say,
It's free and reduced.
All right, so full price is $35, $17.50 is if they're reduced lunch,
oh, okay,
$8.75 would be a
okay,
free lunch.
all right, underneath, all right, sorry about that. You know, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, it doesn't, on my iPad, it doesn't come out like it does on the sheet.
Now, you also have a cap, don't you?
What's
You have a
that?
family of 4,
There's a
they're all
cap,
football?
yeah, there's a $500 family cap.
Okay.
Do we ever, I like data and I like tracking data, do we ever actually track what it costs for each of those clubs and each of those?
I could tell you that, not right at the moment, but yes, I could find that.
Okay, because I would be really
is
interested in
tracked.
just actually seeing what that cost would be and then seeing what that would equate to with the number of participants on an average year. Just roughly, I mean, I would.
I mean,
just
if
be
you're asking
interested.
if it pays for itself, the answer to that is simply no, it's not going
So
to.
if you had football, right, pay $125 to get into your football, one student, right? And so we have a good winning year, and we pack the stands, okay, now that stand money, that admission fee, where does that money go back in, just into the general fund?
It goes into the general fund.
Okay.
You're asking me,
I mean, is that kind of
does
like
the
offset?
sport ever pay for itself? Football can at times,
Mhm.
when it's pouring and there's only 4 people in the stands, for one of the 4 home games, it doesn't.
Uh-huh.
But I was one of those 4, by the way.
More of the monsoon, pretty intense.
That was some intense rain. Kept waiting for it to lighten up, but
And
it
wind.
just never did. But anyway, so that one comes close. Boys hockey is, usually pays for itself, and that's it.
So you guys, who collects the money at the gate, at the hippodrome?
We pay somebody to be there to collect money.
Okay, so then you get that money.
We have game workers.
Is there any like percentage that goes to the hippodrome on admission or anything, or you just get straight up all admissions?
No, we get the admissions.
Okay.
We pay the lease for it, and that's our only expense on it.
Okay.
Of course, they have asked for a share of the gate. I said no last time.
I mean, I would honestly just be interested for the data, just to see, because not that we increase it to cover the cost, I'm not recommending that, but I think it would help in having conversations with people
Mhm.
Sure, I can
about cost.
get that to you. I mean, we looked at it a couple of years ago, and
Okay.
that's why I know that football and hockey are the only 2 that
Yep.
actually support themselves.
Which doesn't surprise me, I mean, yeah, yep, come,
The rest of them are all losers. That probably doesn't, they're
that.
they're not-
It's all right.
they're not making as much.
Rephrase.
They're not making as much money as they're spending. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah.
Way to
Return on
rephrase.
investment's poor.
Yeah,
Yeah, return on it, there you go.
no, it's not a poor investment either, but
But yeah, Well, in
I
some,
mean, it's not
yeah.
intended to, it's intended to offset the cost.
To offset, yep.
I mean, it's not, I don't think it was ever designed to pay for itself.
No, but I think it's a good frame of reference for people to be aware of, where then you do have that. I mean, where people, I think when families can get it and understand it, I mean, I think any
So
All right,
education is good.
We'll
then,
we'll
then,
move
then the question becomes, what are other districts charging just out of?
We're in this ballpark.
Okay,
There are some that are quite a bit more. I mean, I think Virginia more?
More than 125? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
How about these others? I mean, that's the other category, Palms, Matthew, Cheer, around that same ballpark.
I don't know about those, if there's a cost for those.
All right, well, we'll get you that information.
Thanks.
And we'll move on from that right now. Practice sessions, or, we have that. Locker room responsibilities. Out of season stuff, in-season stuff. All right, this is where we're gonna stop, 5:10. All right, so, you wanna talk about this?
Well, the only thing, there was the academic eligibility requirement. Last year, we ran into a situation where a student at second quarter was passing, but his semester grade was failing. And so I had added to this policy now, if you approve it, I had added that it says semester report card, so one or more subjects on, it's the first line there, the quarter, and I added or semester report card. And it was and I believe that's the way it was supposed to be. It was, because the policy that was written here didn't talk about the semester grade, but in another area in the policy where it was talking about this, it did include the semester grade. So I think that it just got maybe, it wasn't in this part for some reason, but it was in another part. And I believe they should be passing for the semester as well, as the quarter grade. So I wanted to add semester on to the policy. And it was in the policy down below in a different area.
And so the regulatory policy they're not passing semester.
Semester or quarter.
What is the regulatory action at that point? So what would the consequence be?
Then they would wait until the midterm of the next quarter.
So I'm trying to think. So it could affect multiple extracurricular activities, not just one?
Yeah,
Anyone.
Go
yeah,
on.
any
Next.
sport.
Last year, second quarter, the end of the semester, there was only one student that, like I said, was passing second semester, passed for second quarter, but failed the semester grade. So it was only one student. I don't think it's gonna affect a lot. They're
How
usually
would
gonna
that
be
be?
passing for both. Because they average the first quarter. So you have the first quarter grade, if that was an A, and second quarter grade, or first quarter grade, excuse me, was an F, and the second quarter grade was an A. He was passing second quarter, but the two of them, the percentages was still failing.
That's a bad example.
Yeah.
Well, because it would be a C,
Because
right?
it would be,
Yeah,
right.
if you failed first quarter and you got
I
a
was
D,
still following you.
Yeah,
Or D
you
minus.
got a
Because
D or
that
D
would-
minus the second quarter, I mean, technically you're passing, but you didn't pass the semester.
Because it wasn't enough to pull
Right.
it above the failing threshold.
and that's the biggest, the semester grade is the most important, to tell you the truth, because that's what gives you credit
That's what the
towards
quarter
graduation. A quarter grade, I mean, that's not giving you credit, it's that semester grade is giving you the credit that on your transcript. Your transcript doesn't see quarter grades. Your transcript only sees semester grades.
And I get what you're saying, I mean, we don't run into this often, but when it does, I mean, we should
Right.
have it cleared up where
Well,
it's
the
not,
teacher was upset with, with the policy at the time, and that's why she brought it to my attention.
where it's not confusing and it's clear.
Right, because he's not gonna, he's failing, he can actually do night school or summer school, but he's still playing the sport. So it was confusing to her.
Yep.
So it's just cleaning up the wording.
Yeah, just add, yeah.
Overall, it stresses consistency, which is important in all facets of life, so.
Yeah.
Academics should be.
Yeah.
Any other comments on that?
But consistency and effort.
Where's the next problem there? Is it this one?
It's the penalties. Yeah,
Oh,
right there.
there we go.
Yep, first violation. I believe when this yeah, right under first
Oh, no, I'm looking
violation.
for a page number for Derek.
Oh,
I don't have one.
34.
Right,
Page
Thank
34.
you.
I believe when this policy was written about a first violation, this is a tobacco violation or alcohol, drugs, their first violation, they have to go and meet with a chemical dependency counselor, and that counselor will provide 2 or 4 series of sessions of counseling, as it says, based on what that counselor feels is needed. And at that time, the way it was written, I believe we had probably on staff, somebody from the Arrowhead Center that was here, that could meet with these students during the day. And we no longer have somebody from Arrowhead Center. We actually tried to have somebody here for like more of the mental health aspect last year, but it didn't work out. She was here for a little bit, but then she got pulled somewhere else, so she wasn't here. So if we have any students who have a violation, they would have to go to the Arrowhead Center in Virginia, and there's a fee to it. I inquired about it, and it's a $100 fee for these students.
Each session.
Each session?
And I had asked if they would recommend that, and I was explaining this policy, how I believe it was, back in the day, I think there was somebody here, and they thought, it probably doesn't make sense to have that in the policy if we're not providing the service here at the school. Maybe if, she thought maybe the second violation, if you wanted to say that they had to have chemical dependency counselor, but that, with our policy, what if they're at a party but they weren't actually drinking, but they were there, they would still be violating our policy. So even if they never even touched a drop of alcohol, they're still gonna get the penalty. Do they still need to see a chemical dependency counselor? And the tobacco one is, they said just take that out because they don't do any counseling with tobacco anymore. There's a new licensure out there, and they said nobody in this area has that license to even counsel anybody for the tobacco, because it's recently become a different license. So she said for the tobacco violation, we would not do any more of the chemical dependency, but for drugs and alcohol, what are your thoughts on?
Well, my thought, I guess, would be based on whatever, I think it should be based on whatever the chemical dependency counselor, when they have an assessment done, whatever their recommendation is.
But what if they don't have an assessment done?
For
Because they
like
don't,
a kid that,
Because they don't have to
We
go.
don't currently provide that service anymore, that's what she's saying. So, should we have a policy on something that we're providing the service for?
And as coaches, we're life mentors, so whether it be the head coach or a position coach, we need to have that rapport with that student, and we certainly don't cast them away when an incident like this occurs. So I could see where the first incident happens where they violate our policy for drugs or alcohol. It should be expected, and it's highlighted in this, that we have those hard talks with them, and that we continue to develop them as human beings. Now, if it's becomes a habit where they get a second violation, now we're talking about something far greater than is within our control. You're talking about, and I have some experience with, as a victim advocate and also a suicide prevention officer. Now they're at high risk for suicide, high risk for depression, high risk for tragedy. So it's important that they do see a professional. I don't think it's the first violation, but certainly if it's a repeat offender, we need to get them that help, and even if it does cost $100 a session.
I'm not comfortable mandating that at all if we don't provide it within our school, at all. I don't think, so I work where you receive voluntary services, and if you cannot provide or pay for that voluntary service, then there's, then you apply for assistance to be able to get help with that. If either we check on Arrowhead Center is not the only chemical dependency treatment provider that we have in our area. We have Range Treatment Center too, that is looking at partnering with some schools possible. I mean, have we reached out to them at coming in, whether it's every other week for half a day, whatever it may be, I don't know. I'm not okay with having a policy where we are telling them, I agree with Brandy, we should not be saying how many times that they should be meeting with them. We are not treatment providers, and we should not be pretending to be treatment providers. To say 4 to 6 times is all of a sudden gonna take care of your chemical dependency issues, or that you do have chemical dependency issues. And if we're not providing it within our school, we're not in control of that. And we need to maintain what we are in control of, and we're not in control of that if it's not within our school district, so.
And the Arrowhead Center did say that they could get a grant to pay for these fees, you know, that are assessed to families through the United Way. They're always looking to help support students in the communities, and so they said we can definitely get, if this $100 fee is going to be an issue for a family or something, she goes, we can write a grant and we'll be able to cover it, but it's just up to whatever we want to do.
We need to provide resources for our children.
I think that's a difference though in providing resources versus mandating.
To your point a little bit, and I'm certainly no expert in this area at all, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the reasons that went away from schools is, it's not that the Arrowhead Center or the Range Center wouldn't provide someone, but it's kind of like foster care, the building actually has to be licensed.
It's not billable right now. So there's current changes going on right now with substance use disorder that are going on with the legislature that hopefully will be changed July 1st, where there's going to be a lot of changes coming in with case management for substance use, and hopefully some more options for in-school services, we're hoping. So I'm just saying, I mean, I'll of course keep our district posted on that, but yes, it's, the billable issues is one of the pieces. So if it's not billable, that's fine, but then you offer the grant services then.
But I don't think that their counselors can come in here and.
And provide.
And provide. I'm basing this off of
Mhm.
Northland Learning Center just got approved to be a chemical dependency.
With Arrowhead treatment.
Through
With
Arrowhead.
treatment, yeah.
They got some license through the state of Minnesota for their building. They're the only one in the state of Minnesota, believe it or not, that has one in the school.
To be able to do the.
To be able to do chemical dependency counseling in the school.
And one of the pieces that we push too is, because we just brought this up in one of our Ely meetings up north, is trying to access CD stuff within the school districts. And one of the pieces too that we push is even using our video conferencing, that I think we have some technology here for video
Yeah,
conferencing.
they will do that.
Yep, and using that then as an option for CD. It's not an option right now. Again, we're hoping that July 1st it will be for CD stuff, but that could possibly be.
So-
I just don't think we can I think addressing resources and giving options, if we're not providing the I mean, how,
You're saying you don't feel comfortable forcing parents to
say
To
here,
foot the bill
you
to
have to do
pull and have an
this,
assessment.
and you have to do it for 4 to 6 sessions.
2 to 4 years.
Well, I just happened to look at the 4 to 6, but even the 2 to 4, I mean, none of us are licensed alcohol and drug counselors. I mean, we can't say that, like, and where did this number come from?
Okay, what do
I
other schools
wouldn't
do?
know.
What do other schools do?
I don't think other schools have this written in there where they have to see a chemical dependency counselor.
How do they have it written?
If they just follow the Minnesota,
They just
whatever the
follow the high
Minnesota.
school rules where it
Yeah.
says if you get caught, you're out for
There's a
4 weeks.
suspension,
Well,
there's,
I mean,
Well, and
that's,
I would hope that our school counselor would check in with these kids that have had a violation.
That's typically
To
what
just,
schools
you know-
will do, is they'll have their counselors just be aware of it and have a session with them and talk to them about their choices and where that may lead if they continue down that path.
And to provide some
Yeah.
resources and things. I think that would be more appropriate, because I mean, coming from a counselor standpoint, I would hate for for kids to get the violation and we just tell them you're out for 4 weeks and not have any conversation with them about it. So I think it would be more appropriate for us to have something like that happen where the school counselor meets with them, talks to them about choices.
Have a sit-down
and have a-
meeting within this.
And provide resources, and if you need help, come, you know, whatever, come talk to me, and, I think that would be more appropriate than mandating, or, you know, saying that you have to do these things in order for you to play again.
And I'm a strong supporter of sports and feeling that to have the opportunity to be able to do sports and someone that's struggling with any alcohol or drug use, you know, and having gone to school with individuals that have had this experience throughout their during their high school and did seek some treatment and everything. I mean, to just, you know, if this was a family of low income and difficult means, or not even low income, if they didn't qualify for that, I mean, but that's money to come from for even middle class people sometimes. I mean, that's a lot of money to come up with sometimes.
Well, especially if they did get a ticket, then.
Bottom line, yeah. I mean, so it's another thing, and there's another deterrent now to even try to get back on the team that might have been a really positive thing for them. And so I feel like something to have it, I don't know, there's other ways to be able to provide the resources, to have the conversation, and to have consequences for behavior, because there should always be consequences also for behavior.
Well, and there is a consequence, they're gonna be out, you know.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
there's a
so if there's a
consequence.
suspension, but I agree with Brandy's piece too, of having it within that where we can control having a counselor sitting down with the athlete and their family to discuss resources and options and the suspension.
Anyone else have any comments on that part?
So we're gonna change that then, or what are we gonna do?
We can, yeah, we'll come back with a different suggestion. I mean, this is the way it is right now, this is the way it's written.
Right.
We'll try something different. So next paragraph, just food for thought. So our penalties are more severe than the high school league recommendations are.
Mhm.
So for instance, is it 2 weeks?
I believe it's 2 weeks or 2 games.
So like Virginia follows the high school league rules, so they're 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and whatever the third violation is, I don't know. Here's the problem that comes into play. We have a number of sports that are combined. Following me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different
Yeah.
standards for different schools.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something to think about.
yeah.
And
So
that's
I
the
just-
case, we're gonna have to come up with some sort of uniform violation between all the sports that are combined, don't you think?
Well, I think that most schools around this area do follow what the Minnesota State High School League has. I don't think they have.
What do they have?
Awesome.
What do they?
First violation is 2 weeks, the second one is 4 weeks, and is the third one 6 weeks?
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think the third violation is 6 weeks.
What was the
Yeah.
second violation?
It's 4 weeks.
Okay.
4 weeks or 4 contests. I think that's it.
4 weeks or 4?
Or 4 contests,
Whatever's longer.
whatever's longer. And you can see that obviously ours are different. They're more severe, which,
Well, yeah, the
Okay.
second one is 12.
yeah. And then you're out for a year. So I just, I don't know that that's a problem we're gonna solve tonight, but before we meet the next time, I'd like you to think about that a little bit.
Even for employment, for adults, people can abuse substances, go to treatment, and come back and retain their employment right away.
I'm not
In
saying
less
I,
time than that.
yeah, I'm not
I
saying
mean,
I
I'm just
disagree with
saying.
this, but I'm telling you that it has come up. Just take boys hockey, for instance, we're combined with Wasabi East, and they follow the high school league rules. But we don't. So when that kid from Wasabi East gets caught, what does he fall under? It's our program, so we've maintained that he gets 4 weeks first time, but Wasabi used to say, we only come out for 2 weeks, so, I mean, if we could kind of straighten that out, that'd be pretty cool.
I think, yeah, okay.
All right, anything else? And Ms. Williams?
No, not
I had a few things.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so contact with parents. It
Yeah.
talks about any kind of communication with parents.
21.
Oh, not 21. It's under, with the facilities manager, has to be contacted. So before the communication, it says prior to communication with parents, we need to have a written statement given to the activities director. And so, does that cover social media? Because there's a lot of interaction on apps and things other than just a phone call or something from the boosters,
Like
right?
schoolwear with the
So-
band.
Right. And so that needs to be maybe a little broader, a wider scope.
Where is that at?
Who's on page?
I was on page 20 something there, didn't highlight it. It's under head coaching responsibilities with the activities.
Which number is it?
I don't have it on here.
Athletic coach, page 11, the page 11.
A copy of any communications forwarded to parents directly or through the athletes will be turned to the activities director for filing.
Yes,
That's number 2 on page 22.
okay, 22. Right, so
Parent meetings.
that takes a lot of foresight, which, I'm not saying it can't be done, but there is quite a bit of communication. Like on our social media or the apps, it says communication with the parents or even the players here, correct?
Preseason.
So, I mean, on the social media app, there's gonna be a communication that goes to
This
them.
is, just maybe help you a little bit, this is preseason duties, so before you, I think what it's suggesting is if you have a parent meeting, obviously not all parents show up, but we're looking for a copy of what you give the parents,
The agenda.
the agenda for the ahead of the season. Because we typically encourage a parent meeting before we start the season. So we're looking for that.
All right.
Not every time you say hey,
Communicating to the
yeah,
parents.
we're at Cotton,
Yeah.
make sure you're there in a half hour.
Or
Fundraising, obviously not gonna get there.
Fundraising events.
Not even that, I mean, I'm basically looking for, and
I think
Expectations.
but you're,
the
all
handbook
of your
that you give out.
handbook that you have ahead of time for your parents, whatever you meet with, that's what they're looking for.
Okay,
They're not looking for
Yep.
Every.
But-
every little communication.
Good
that you
deal.
have.
that's great. Another one was, so inventories. And a system we've used is we have a checklist of things that we hand out. It says to mark each piece of equipment. Now, so just for an example, I'd like to kind of lesson, it's on, I'm gonna find that page now, equipment, it's inventories and equipment. Inventory of equipment is under budget. Might be page 17 here. Storage. Equipment and facilities. It talks about numbering each piece of equipment.
Okay.
Can we lessen that to like the size of the equipment or a shoulder pad? Or, because what ends up happening is, as it is day 1, 2, and 3, that opening week, and this is probably for football and hockey more than other sports, we hardly practice at all. And so if we could just say, all right, so keep a checklist of the amount of equipment you hand out, a girdle, a shoulder pad, but to actually keep account of the numbering system for each is, I think maybe we're being a little too thorough.
Yeah, most sports, I mean, you look at like a basketball, you just hand them a jersey.
Right.
It's pretty easy.
We have like 20, 25 items, you know, it's,
Yeah.
Well, this was under inventory of equipment, number
Ish.
2.
issuing of
Issuing of
equipment.
athletic equipment, number 1, coaches, advisors should see that all equipment is numbered or labeled when purchased, and this number is used when issuing equipment to identify the user. 1A.
It's on the board.
I'm just thinking it's maybe a little too thorough for all sports.
That have multiple pieces.
Because coaches are gonna follow this. We put this out, the coaches are going to follow this. And are we going to put a unnecessary burden on their shoulders? That's all I'm saying.
No, I get
Because rules are meant to
it
be followed, so either gonna follow them or they're gonna be cutting corners, and I just suggest ahead of time. Well,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, other than football and hockey, I mean, I think it's just jerseys,
Right,
you know, for everybody else.
so it's something to think about. Otherwise, I'll go through my 2,000 pieces of equipment and number them all. And the last thing was the budget. This is just a recommendation, also a question. Talks, number on this, I should have highlighted these, my apologies. The budget was near the end, right? 25 maybe? Budget 2017? Okay, so page 17. All right, so, in terms of the annual budget, so we, as a coach, we present or request, we say this is the need we have, or we have a shortage in this area based off inventory. So annually, do you anticipate each program coming forward to the board and requesting an increase or decrease in budget?
It hasn't, and I'm not saying that, I mean, change is fine with me, always is. But how it has historically happened here is there's a number that was produced at some point in time, and we just go with that.
And I think I like this, an annual, because now you're talking about checks and balances for coaches and being accountable for those things. And we're gonna identify that far ahead of time, so there's no last minute purchases. I think this is a good thing to do, and takes more responsibility and accountability for their equipment and for those resources. And so, like, there may be a year, and there may be a year where we only spend, say, $4 or $5 grand. The next year, we might be requesting 15 grand because it's time for new jerseys. And so,
Funny, we were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Well, just for the sake of time, because there is also the Eveleth-Gilbert High School new weight room proposal,
Right.
and also the assessment piece that we didn't get to. And I just wanted to comment myself on the assessment piece regarding who's doing it. You know, who's going to be assessing the performance of the coaches, because I guess I have a couple of things come to my head. One of them is, you're probably gonna hear when that coach is not doing a very good job more frequently than when the coach is doing a great job. And, you know, is that going to, you know, that one angry parent, is that going to influence that, that coach's whole coaching career?
I don't know that there's ever been a coach that has ever coached that hasn't had that one injury.
Yeah, but, you know, I just, you know, wanna know who's going to be assessing it. Again, attendance at one game, is that an appropriate means for assessing?
Is the athletic committee part of that assessment?
Ultimately, I think what we had discussed is this would be an athletic director responsibility for that part, for the part that you're seeing. We also, or we, Angie, I don't know if we can pop it up here. I'm not gonna get it in time because I don't have it someplace where it should be.
There's programs,
I know.
there's
I
5
have,
of them.
what we did is we came up with, along with what you're seeing there, no, I have that, that's fine. We also did a questionnaire for parents and athletes, just feedback. And I don't, I was planning on having a discussion about the appropriateness of that tonight, but we'll have to save it for another evening. But we'll go through that.
Okay.
We'll do a few adjustments on the coach's handbook, and then we'll just meet again about that.
Okay.
So, a couple things before we adjourn for a few minutes. So, like I said, we haven't, we have, as a district, we've fallen behind in jerseys, in particular uniforms. So I'm wondering how the board feels about playing a little catch-up. In particular, baseball's about a dozen years since they've had them. We usually, typical district, we usually rotate at about 8 or 9 years, 7, 8, 9 years, somewhere in that area, depending on the sport. I mean, obviously your football's never, it's gonna be, hockey is gonna be different, but, you know, like track is gonna be like a 10-year rotation, that type of thing. But the track's had about a dozen years, and baseball's had a dozen years, and they're pretty ratty. You're probably looking at about 20 grand for both sports. How are we feeling about that? It's not budgeted for.
It's pretty poor, that's a big thing. So, if we can save 20 grand somewhere, why wouldn't we want to give them something that they can be proud of wear? Feel good, you play good.
I agree. I think it's important. I think it would be nice to figure out a good,
We had a
if we fell
rotation.
behind, yeah, a good rotation.
We had a
so that-
rotation until we started experiencing some budgetary problems a while ago, and then we stopped. That was one of the things we stopped buying. That wasn't necessarily a good idea, but it happened.
Okay.
So all of the sports, all of the basketball, volleyball, softball, the school district pays for those jerseys?
Yes. Tennis last year, being an exception, they did a fundraiser and bought their own.
Very cool.
Girls tennis,
And they went to state.
So I do have a quote on baseball. Anyone wants to look at it? He's looked at a couple of different areas. That's the best one that he's had so far. I don't have one for track. I know she just approached me and asked. She said, hey, it's been a while. So I looked into it, and it had indeed been a while. And then the last thing, the board had asked me to look into the possibility of moving the weight room into the cafeteria, and I told you that we were sitting on possibility of putting a daycare in there. That has since isn't a possibility anymore, so moving on to the weight room. We did bring in Second Wind Sports to do a quote on what it may cost for us to do that upgrade. And you have that. So what I need you to tell me tonight is that something you're interested in doing? Would you like me to get a quote on new equipment? It's gonna be 3 times as much? Or, you know, where do you wanna go with it, I guess, at this point?
My personal feeling is, if we're not utilizing that space and we have the weight room stuff trickling out into the hallway, it's a safety concern. So I'm for doing a new weight room. I don't think we necessarily need brand new shiny, but,
And what you have on this particular quote, I mean, there's 8 treadmills, 3 ellipticals. We probably don't need 8 treadmills and 3 ellipticals either, but I mean, it's somewhere to start, so you get an idea of what that stuff costs.
would there potentially be an option for the community to utilize that weight room as well, being that there's that locked door and they can come in and?
Would your staff get to utilize it?
What's that?
Do
Or
staff currently, are they able to utilize it now? That would be
I
nice
think
for
as far as staff goes, they're probably more apt to go over to Gilbert right now, just because of the machinery that's there. I mean, there's cardio equipment in there, and there isn't free weights, they're all machine weights. If you did open it to the public, being that the majority of this is free weights, it would have to be staffed somehow.
Yeah, supervisor, we're certified.
Could we hire a high school student to?
No.
Liability. Our weight room right now is condensed space, so as is, we have to watch each other. It's not unsafe, it's safe, but it's just so condensed, you can't really do multiple things at the same time, so we're always spotting each other and taking turns. With more space, you're gonna have not only more cooperation amongst like multiple sports. So right now, we, as a sports program, they request a facility and then they own it for X amount of time. We still want to request that facility, but we could have multiple sports training weight room at the same time. There's only so many hours out of the ideal hours of the day. So this is a great thing for our sports programs if this happens.
Again, for the sake of time, we've got 4 minutes, and I don't know if anybody needs to.
I mean, I'm just looking for, is this the
I'm,
direction you wanna go in, not?
I would like to.
I would like to.
And then along with that, I think where it is. Well, we looked at the possibility of, as long as we're doing this, putting a big old golden bear on the wall.
Cool.
Probably looking at another $500 for that.
A banner or
No, a little
Mural.
oh, mural.
mural,
Are we gonna paint it, or are we gonna leave it?
maybe painted
Okay,
in.
yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Heck yeah.
School pride.
I mean, this is outstanding. This is nice. It's really nice. This is something we can.
It'll be attractive to others.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're competing, I mean, as, I know a lot, we're talking about the fact that we are competing with other districts at this time. And Sauk East just passed that $9 million sports facility, so this is something that will keep our students engaged in extracurricular activities. So,
We do have the policy for use of equipment, our facility equipment too, right?
Yep.
So as long as we follow that policy, that's what I'm talking.
Well, and the policy revolves around there needs to be an adult in it, because there's three of us.
safety, supervision.
I think that can be a conversation too down the road, but right now for getting it up and running, I think, do we need to have a vote on that?
We can't do that right at the moment. but
I know
we can-
that, but.
We can add it to the agenda if you, so be.
Just something, heads up, right now, we have 3 assistant coaches that are volunteering their time in the weight room on Mondays and Wednesdays from 3:30 to 5:30, and one who's a teacher, he's also volunteering Thursday morning. So those are individuals that potentially could be the supervisor of that weight room after school. They're already doing it. And maybe now it could be like a paid position or a stipend, or how that works, but because they're gonna be supervising more than just our athletes. You know what I'm saying?
I need to adjourn the bid meeting.